Hi guys, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please let others know that class has started, right? We will be starting soon at 10:05. Okay, so yeah, let's start with today's session. I request you all guys to keep yourself on mute, right? If it's yeah. So yeah, guys, let me know how many of you tried the loop assignment, right? We discussed it last week that we will be covering loops assignment today. So how many of you gave it a hello? Okay, why not we will be doing these questions one by one, right? I just want to know key how many of you guys gave it a try, right? How many of you? Big light problem. Yeah, we can discuss big light problem, but I guess that was covered by the substitute teacher, right? I completed all assignments. Right, good work, Miran. All right, Abhinav, we can discuss it in a special class, right? Or at the end. It's confusing. Okay. Okay, we will be having a look. So I guess most of you guys are facing issues with peak element, right? So why don't we start with it, right? Okay, so how many of you are interested in peak element? Yes, solve peak element. Let's start solving peak element. Okay, just one thing more. Is loops covered entirely in the main class? What is the status of the main class? Can you just let me know? Right, you can unmute yourself. Okay, so loops covered, I guess. For loop, while loop, both are covered, right?
Yes, sir. For
Yes,
loop
sir. But not that nested one.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about nested one. It's something that will come to you naturally when you solve more, right? I just want to know, okay, loops concept is right. Yes. So yeah, let's start with peak element today, right? The first problem for the day. Just give me a sec to share the screen. Mhm. All right, guys, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so let's go through the problem description. One, okay, just let me know if the screen size need to be adjusted or the font size. Everything good? Seems good. Yeah, I guess this is much better, right? Okay. An element is called a peak element if its value is not smaller than the value of its adjacent elements, if they exist. Okay. given an array ARR of size n, find the index of the first peak element. If peak element does not exist, print -1. All right, cool. Input contains an integer n denoting the size of array. Line 2 contains n space separated integers denoting the elements of the array. All right, cool. If we don't find any sort of answer, we need to print -1, right? Okay. All right. So yeah, guys, let me know what are the issues that you are facing first, right? Then we can like start to discuss the algorithm, right? What is the main issue that you guys are facing in like, this problem? Right? Test case नहीं चल रहे, pass नहीं हो रहा, concept नहीं समझ आ रहा. What is the issue?
Creating the conditions. How to build
कुछ
the
कुछ टेस्ट कैसे चल रहे हैं, कुछ चल नहीं रहे हैं.
All right. So yeah, logic part, right? See, in this question, I will be like teaching you one thing, that is corner casing, right? So I don't know why this time they have put it in front, like they have like in the second assignment. This was something that is used to be taught after covering loops, arrays, and conditions, right? Okay, so array is covered. You guys know about array?
Yes, sir.
Sir, matlab, yes sir, no sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes sir. Okay.
Yes sir.
Okay, array main class में नहीं हुआ.
Not covered, sir.
Application हुआ था,
But in the
मैंने
pre-course.
Okay, all right. So I guess you guys have a basic understanding of what arrays is, right? Array is a collection of similar data structure, right? So far we have worked with single variables, but array is a data structure that allows us to combine all like several variables together, right? Okay, so let's go into the code once, right? If you guys still face any doubt, I will be moving to the Blackboard and explaining the algorithm, right? Okay, so first let's understand the problem description, right? The element should not be smaller, right? So I believe it can be greater and equal to, right? I guess equal to case is also valid if it's not smaller, right? But let's find out, right? Because it's saying peak element, right? Okay, so the element should be greater than its neighbors. Now there can be two cases, right? One case is that there are both the neighbors, right? The second case can be there is only one neighbor. Now, when can this condition happen? Anybody? When can this condition happen?
when the I is
Okay.
first number.
Yeah. On the first and the last element, we can say that we only have one neighbor, right? So if let's have a look at the constraints. Constraint says that n can be 1, right? There can be also a condition where size is only 1, right? That means neither of the left and right neighbor is present. So we got ourselves 3 cases, that if there should be no neighbor, one neighbor and 2 neighbors, right? Okay, so let's say we create an array of size n, but how do we get the n? Let's create the scanner class first. SCANNER scanner SC is equals to new system.in, right? Okay, so first thing we need
Yes,
is
sir.
the integer n that will tell us about the length of that array, right? sc.next int. Cool. Now we need to create an integer array, right? How do we create an array? We create an array this way, right? We define the array. This brackets define the declaration of an array, right? You can see the difference between an array and a variable. Variable doesn't have any brackets, but array has a square brackets in its declaration, right? Now we can have a new int. What should be the size of array? It should be of n size. Now we can use a loop to basically get all the elements in the array, right? We need to read the elements into array. Got it? So we can say ARR at I is equals to sc.nextInt. Okay. So far we created the data structure that was given in the problem description. Now we need to perform the operations to get the peak element. Right. By default, I can assume that I will be having an answer of -1. Right. Why -1? Okay. I guess I need to mute you all. See, why -1? Because they have said that if we don't find any sort of an answer, we need to like have an answer of -1. So why don't we initialize our answer with -1, right? If we don't get any sort of an answer, we will be simply printing this answer, right? See, what I'm saying is we will be having a print statement, system.out Print ln, we will be printing the answer, right? Okay. Now in the space between the integer answer declaration and the printing, I will be doing some operation. Now that operation will help me find the first peak element. But let's say there is a case where there is no possible solution. Now, initially I have initialized my answer with -1. So I can say if there is no valid condition, my answer will be still say -1. Got it? So that way I'm just printing the -1 case. Is this point understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we need to check for the let's say the peak element. Okay, so for let's say we write a for loop that will help us iterate over all the elements. I can say int I is equals to 0. So what should I write? I less than n. I get it? Okay, so let's check if I is equals to I minus 1. Right, if I is equals to 0, that means the first part, right? Else if I is equals to n minus 1, right? That is the last element, else part, right? Okay, so we can say this case will have only right neighbor, right? Right neighbor, and n minus 1 will only have the left neighbor, right? Right, and in this case I can say left and right, left and right neighbor, right? Got it? Now for the I is equals to 0, I need to check if please why not keep it? Okay, good. So I can say if ARR at I, that is the ARR at I, or I can say 0, right? ARR at 0 is greater than ARR at what should come here, right? Please guys help me. What should come here? ARR 0 should be greater than
I plus 1.
I plus 1. What will that position be? I can say that position will be 1, right? Okay, so if that is the case, make answer is equals to ARR at I or 0. Now I can break because I don't need to check any further, right?
Sir, why do
Right.
you use break?
Okay, see why I'm using break is कि देखो for loop चल रहा है, for loop will be running n number of times, right? As soon as I get the first answer, you can say we need to find the first peak element. As soon as I get the first answer, I will be using the break statement. Now this break statement will break me out of this for loop and stop any further loop, right? Further searching for the answer. I need to find the first answer. So as soon as I get the first, I will be breaking, right? And with the help of break, I will basically skip all the remaining iterations and simply print out the answer, right? Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if ARR at n minus 1 is greater than what should come here? ARR of, this time we are checking for the right neighbor. I can say n minus 2, right? So again, we can simply do this, right? See, this statement stays the same, only difference is n minus 2, right? Okay, so for left and right, I can write a condition if ARR at I is greater than ARR at I minus 1, basically checking for the left half first, right? And ARR at I is greater than ARR at I plus 1, right? That is right part. Okay, so now if that is the case, make my answer is equals to ARR at I, because we find the peak element. Now after that, I simply need to break so that I don't look any further, right? First answer, right? Okay, so I guess I have handled all the cases, right? Only the cases the size is equals to, let's say 1, or in that case, the element itself will be a peak element, right? So I don't think okay, so if ARR at
there is no peak element.
Yes, in the 1, 2, 3, there is a peak element of, okay, so they have printed the index, right? Index, okay, see, 1, 2, 3, the peak element is 3, right? Because the peak element 3 is greater than its left neighbor, that is 2, right? As clearly stated in the problem description, we need to find the peak element that is greater than its neighbors if the neighbor exists, right? In the first and last case, I said only the single neighbor will exist, right? So one thing we need to correct is answer will be 0, right? Because we need to print the index. So I can say n minus 1, right? And here I can say this size equals to 1. So let's try and run it. Okay, so we need to add some sort of an input, right? So let's enter, okay, let's enter this. So let's try and run the code. Yeah, so we got a 2 as answer, right? Now, one case I need to handle is key if there is only just one element, right? That is arrays of size 1, right? In that case, you can see I'm accessing the out of bound cases for array 1 and let's say n minus 1, right? So this is n minus 2. This is not a desired case. Let's say if answer is equal, if n is equals to 1, right? I can basically handle that separately. If n is equals to 1, that is the size of array is 1, right? Please do a system.out of system.out.print ln of or rather let's make the answer as this thing, right? Answer as 0, right? Because in that case the index 0 is going to be my answer, right? And I can say key and right and n is greater than 1, right? So basically this means key only execute the for loop if n is greater than 1. That means key I have at least 2 elements to compare with. If that is not the case, I have handled the single element case separately, that is n is equals to 1. So make the index as 0 because only 0th index element will be there. So it is going to be the peak element, right? Any doubts?
Sir, could you please explain the example on step by step?
Yeah, okay. So we will be going with the example. Just let me just check with the code, right? The code is working or not. If there is any test case failing, yeah, so we passed all the test cases. Okay, so I guess I can better explain it in the notepad.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
one more explain in Hindi.
Yeah, sure. I will be doing that, but let's just go to the notepad, right? There I will be able to use pen and right. Okay, so I will be copying this code. Just give me a sec, guys. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's paste the code first. All right, so this is the code that we just wrote. Right, let's have a look at it one by one. Right. Okay. So yeah. Okay, I can write. See, what I was saying is, let's say we have an array, right? N is equals to size of array. Right. Now we have an array. Let's say the array is of size 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay, so 1 has how many neighbors? Right. So 1 has only one neighbor, that is 2. That is only the right neighbor, right? Let's write R. Okay, so for 2, I can say it has left neighbor and right neighbor, right? So I can write R and L, basically both the neighbors L and R, right? Now for 3, I can say it only has the left neighbor, right? So you can see on the very 0th index, if I write the indices also 0, 1, and 2, you can see the 0th index and the n minus 1 index, right? In this case, n is going to be 3. Agreed? So n minus 1 position and 0th position will be having the corner cases, that is only single neighbor, right? Now, okay, I can generalize everything in between, right? Anything between 0, say n minus 1, I can generalize because they will be having L and R, both the neighbors. But for the cases of R and L, right, the 0th position and the n minus 1 position, I need to handle them separately because now I will be checking only at one direction, right? Cool. See, what our loop did is, okay, so let's write 1, right? 1, 2, and 3, right? Let's do a dry run quickly, right? I will be writing indices as 0, 1, and 2, right? Let's also write, let's also keep the answer. Okay, so this is my answer is initially is going to be -1, right? Why -1? If we don't find any sort of an answer, we need to return, we need to basically print -1, right? Okay, so you can see initially I will be standing at 0, right? Okay, so just don't like look at this part, right? You can skip this part. We will be discussing that at the end. Let's generalize. Let's work on the following first. Okay, so I is standing at 0. Okay, so I need to compare with right index only. So I have handled the 0th case separately. You can see this one. If I is equals to 0, right? In that case, I'm only checking with the right neighbor, right? If I is 0, check only with I is equals to 1. That is the right part. If that is a valid like kind of situation that array 0 is greater than its right neighbor, please make current answer as 0 and break out of the loop because we have found the first peak element. Got it? Now, let's compare 1 and 2. Is 1 greater than 2? No, I can say no. So don't do any sort of an operation. Just move I plus plus, right? Why I plus plus? Because either of these three cases will be executed. So if I was 1, so else if and else, right? Either of them will be executed. Now, coming to 2. Is 2 greater than both the neighbors? Now, in this case, also else part will be executed. Why else part will be executed? Because they have both L and R neighbor, right? Got it? Now, 2 is smaller than 3 but greater than 1. So is this condition being satisfied? I can say no. It is not greater than both the neighbors. It is only greater than 1. It is the left. So yeah, nothing happens. I moves, right? Nothing happens. I moves. Okay, so this time we are standing at the last index. So for last index, which statement will be executed? If, else if, or else? Yeah, guys.
Sir, else if,
Sir, little bit confused.
Okay.
sir, else
You
if
can see.
yeah.
Yeah, else if case will be executed. Why? Because you can see I'm writing the condition else if I is equals to n minus 1, right? Guys, n is the size of the array, right? So n minus 1 basically means 0 indexing. So the index is n minus 1, right? You can see index is 2 here, right? In programming, we keep the indices as 0 based indexing, right? So that's why the last element is at the third position but has the index of 2. Got it? So that's why if you like clearly look at the conditions I have written n minus 1, that is working on the indices. Now, I is standing at the n minus 1th index. That basically means the value 3. Okay, so for this time, I need to handle it separately. So I have written an else if part. I need to check only with the left neighbor, right? So just check 3 with 2. Is 3 greater than 2? Yes, I can say it is a true case. So basically this if statement is validated. That makes the answer ko bana do n minus 1. What is n minus 1? N minus 1 is 2. So my answer gets updated to 2. Got it? Answer gets updated to 2. After that, I'm executing the break statement. So basically break statement means ki, okay, so this part of the for loop is done. Please skip this. Now after for loop, what is present? Keep this print statement. So I get a printout of 2, right? As soon as I got the first answer, I basically used break statement to break through the further iterations. Is this part clear? Yeah. Any doubts?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you want 10, 20, 15. Okay, yeah, let's have a look at that also, right? No worries. Okay, so next part is we only have one element, right? I handled this as a single element array, right? Single element array. So in single element array, the element doesn't have any neighbor, right? No neighbor, no neighbor. So what can we say? If there is no neighbor present, so I can say the single number itself is a valid answer, right? So you can see I'm checking if n is equals to 1. N is equals to 1 basically means, so n was the size of the array. This time we are not talking about the index, right? This time we are talking about the actual size. So if the actual size of the array was 1, that means only single number was present. I can say that number will not have any sort of neighbors. So that number itself is a peak element. So that is what I'm doing here. Ki answer ko humne 0 bana diya because the first element is always present at the 0th index in the given array. In any array, right? It's a programming fundamental, right? So yeah, index of the first element is going to be 0. So that's why answer is made to be 0. Now, After that, you guys saw that I made one more change to the for loop, that is n is greater than 1. What does this mean? Ki, okay, only execute this condition. Okay, so I have written two cases there. Ki I is less than n and n is greater than 1. See, we know this is used to control the iterator in the loop, right? But this is a conditional check. Ki only execute the for loop if the number of elements in the array is greater than 1. Right? अगर array में एक से ज्यादा element है तभी नेबर चेक करने का कोई सेंस बनती है, नहीं है तो वो जो पहला एलिमेंट था वही हमारा आंसर है, राइट? So this is why I'm adding this condition and using the relation operators to basically validate both. If any of them is false, the for loop will break, right? Won't execute further. Okay, right? So any doubts, or you guys want a dry run on the given example that Prashant just gave? If else got it, but for loop condition one more time. Okay, see. Yes. So okay, so I'm not sure about your name. Right, see. For for loop condition, you can see that I is less than n. So you know this statement, right? We have used it several times. For I is equals to 0, go till the number where I is in the range of n, right? Okay, I have like added this small condition here. This condition is basically using the relation operator. What does this relation operator do? It's an AND operator. So for the conditional check, both of the statements need to be true, right? If I'm writing in the for loop, you can clearly see here. Let me just zoom in. Right, you can see I have initialized for loop with the I. Right, this is the initialization and this is the validation of the for loop entry. But in this for loop entry, I have a situation of I is less than n and n is greater than 1. So this basically means, okay, keep the I in the range of 0 to n, right? And only execute if n has value more than 1. That basically means if there is more than one element in the array, only do execute that. Okay, so far we were talking about how we handled it, but why we handled it, you can see in checking of the neighbors, I need at least 2 elements, right? So I need at least 2 elements, because if I'm standing at this, I will be checking it with its left neighbor, right? So you can see I need at least 2 elements, but if my array only has 1 element, I will be getting an error that is of out of bound. Out of bound. Why out of bound? Because I'm trying to access an element that is not present, right? We don't have any the second element in the array, but as per the algorithm, we are trying to access it. So just to prevent the condition, I have handled the single element case separately. So that's the requirement and that's the process. Got it?
Yes, sir. Sir, here break means we should break the for loop, right? So then it will comes to int answer is equal to -1.
Sorry, can you just repeat?
So here we use break. It means we break the for loop, right? And it means we come out of the loop, right, sir?
Yes. We see, because we are trying to find the first element, right? We are not trying to find any other element. We are just trying to find the first element. As soon as we get the very first element, right, I need to stop my execution further, because I want the very first element. If I continue searching, there might be another peak element that can corrupt my answer, right? So I need to stop my execution as soon as I get my first element, right?
Yeah.
Got it?
So another one in the last, if array I greater than array I minus 1, yeah, how it is possible? So we use here and condition, but when I'm trying to put the number in I place, it should be in it shows false. It shouldn't satisfy that condition. Then what happens, sir?
Can you just explain again? Right, I will miss your question.
So if I suppose I is equal to 2, if I take I is equal to 2, for the first if condition we can't satisfy, so I will go to else if.
Yeah.
And it is also not satisfied.
Yeah, then in that case you will be like fall to the else part.
Here also it doesn't satisfy, sir. How it satisfies here?
Okay, see, either you got the point, right? Either of these three conditions will be executed, right? After that, the validation part is nested in them, right? This if check is executed nestedly, right? It's not a direct check, right? Okay, even though if there is an element that is not satisfying this case, right? You can see in the case of 1, 2, 3, at the element 2, we didn't got any sort of a valid case in the either of these three conditions, right? So that doesn't affect our answer, right? Because it is checked with everything. We only update the answer if we get a valid result, right? For invalid results, we need not to worry, right? Because we have handled that case earlier in this part, right? You see, if there is no such an element that is peak element, we have handled it with -1, right? We need to print -1, so we already initialize this as the -1 as the answer, right? So this is why I told you, let's initialize the answer with -1, because we will be updating the answer only if we get the valid result, right?
Yeah, now I understood, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, guys, any doubt, anybody? I guess I tried my best to explain, right? Yeah.
No, sir.
So
It's clear.
yeah.
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Sir, I have a question for the for loop. For the first if of the for loop, sir, you have explicitly check for the condition of n is equal to 1.
N is equals to
1 before the for loop. If n is equal to 1, answer is
yes,
equal to 0.
yes.
Then sir, what is the need of putting again I is equal to 0 in the for loop?
See, there is a difference, right? Because see, let's say ki I am writing, this is my array, right? This is my array. The array is 1, 2, and 3, right? So you can see ki this time I have 3 elements. So in this case, n's value is going to be 3. Got it? N is the size of the array, right? This is size. But when we talk about the indices are 0 base, 0, 1, and 2, right? So this is index, right? So this is the first this is this case, right? Let me just mark it what is happening, right? So this is working on the size. Now indexes are working on the for loop, right? So we are explicitly checking for index 0 if there are more than one element, right? If there is only one element, then I'm like directly accessing that first element and right, not allowing the for loop to execute. This case, right? This n is greater than 1 basically stops the execution of the for loop if there is only one element. It only allows if there are more than one element, right? Got it? Got it?
Okay,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you.
All right. So I guess let's move to the next problem, right? Okay. Yeah. Share my screen again. Yeah, guys, let me know if the screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so which problem, sir, you have initialized if
Largest number
inside the for
Can
loop?
you explain that?
Okay, so Dharmendra, it's not initialization, it's basically evaluation, right? There is a difference between like initialization we use. Can you explain, sir? Okay, let's try and cover
Sir,
it at the
Armstrong
end, right?
number.
Because
Armstrong number समझ में.
यार आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग नंबर तो करा दिया यार, कल करा दिया था, रिकॉर्डिंग होगी तुम्हारे पास, एक बार उस पे देख लो.
Okay, sir.
राइट, आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग नंबर करा दिया.
Sir, HCF.
HCF of two numbers. Okay, let's try HCF of two numbers. Right.
Sir, largest number twice of others.
Yeah, we will be covering that next, right? Sure. Next. Okay. Reverse digits of a number. Yeah. Write a program that finds out HCF of two numbers A and B, right? So we need to write a program that finds the HCF of the two numbers. So see, as so far you only guys know about looping. So with looping, I can say we have a solution of let's manually find right the largest, let's say the largest factor, right? Common factor. So let's create the scanner class first. Why scanner class? Because we need to get the elements A and B. In this case, right, let's say 75 and 90. Let's call them A and B. So yeah, scanner system.in right? So, okay, so let's call them A. Let's read that into the memory. So next int, right? We got the value of A, right? Int B is equals to sc dot next int. Got it? So we have both the values in our hand, right? Now I need to basically find the highest common factor, right? So I can basically say int answer is equals to, by default, 1, right? I guess 1 is the factor of every element, right? So at least I will be having 1 as the answer, right? So apart from that, I can basically write a for loop in int I is equals to 0, right? Let's say I is equals to 0, I is less than the minimum of, right? Math dot minimum of a comma b, right? I plus plus. Okay, in that case I can write if a modulo I is equals to 0, that is a is also divisible, a is divisible by I, as well as b modulo 0, b modulo I, b modulo I is equals to 0. In that case, make my answer is equals to I. Cool. Okay, so in this if statement, I'm basically checking ki if I is dividing A completely and B completely, that basically means, okay, this number is both small in line 11. All right, cool. Yeah, so that basically means ki we are checking for the number that is dividing both A and B directly, right, completely. So that basically evaluates the case of, let's say, highest common factor, right? And after the execution of this for loop, I can simply do a system.out. Println answer. Right, let's try and run it. Let's try with the input 75 and 90. Right, let's try and run this code and let's check. Okay, so we are trying to divide by 0. Yeah, I guess that's the issue. Okay, so what is math.min? Yeah, let's have a look at that also. What is math.min? Yeah, okay, I will be explaining it. Okay, so we got the answer 15, right? I guess it is working. Let's first check it and then I will be taking your doubts one by one. Okay, no worries. Let's try and figure it out. So what is math.minimum, right? What is math.minimum? Math.minimum is basically an inbuilt function of the math class. It is basically in java.util, right? Math.min basically gives me the minimum value of both these conditions, both the variables, that is A and B, right? So it is a function that returns minimum of both A and B, right? Which let's say A is okay, so A is 75, B is 90. So I will be getting the minimum of them, that is 75, right? Got it? So yeah, I guess system SC.
No, sir, फिर से बोलो ना.
Okay,
Sir.
देखो, yeah. Without function. Okay, so without function, I can like, okay, so this math.minimum is basically equivalent to see this, right? I can basically create an integer n, right? Int n is equals to 0, right? I can basically create int n is equals to, let's create A, right? So I need to basically set n to the minimum value. So if B is less than A, please make my n is equals to B, right? So this way you can see I'm finding the minimum of either of them, right? Minimum of them both. So this basically I'm like writing these 4 lines in a single line. This is the math.minimum function, right? So now I can basically replace it with the n, so that also gives me a valid like 75, 90, like try and run it. Okay, so yeah, one thing more is key, it can be also equal, right? Because if let's talk about the HCF of 15 and 5, that gives an answer of 5, right? So it can be like equivalent to A or B also, right? So let's try and run it. Yeah, so that was the issue, I guess. Yes. Okay, so I guess let's break this down one by one. What is happened here? See, I'm basically creating a scanner class, taking in 2 inputs, right? The 2 numbers whose HCF I need to find, right? Called them A and B. After that, I created a variable n for like finding the minimum of the given 2 numbers. So that, see, because I know that this by property key. Let's talk about 5 and 15 for an example, right? The HCF of 5 and 15 will be always equal to or smaller than 5, right? I can have no answer that is greater than 5 because that will never be a factor of 5. Got it? This is the first property that I thought of. And like assuming this, I know, okay, so I need to limit my for loop till the smallest of the given two values. How I did that, right? So how I did that, I basically used this property to find the minimum common, right? Yeah, it's highest common factor, right? So that's why, because see, the highest common factor of any number should be like smaller or equal to it, right? Let's go to like the given example, 5 and 15. In that, the highest common factor is going to be 5, right? 5 is a factor of 5. 5 into 1, 5, and 5 into 3 is 15. So I can have 5 common. So that's why highest common factor can be equal to or like smaller than the minimum of the given two values. Now, I needed the help of the answer. I basically initialized answer with 1 because anything multiplied by itself and 1, like anything multiplied by 1 gives itself, right? So let's, in the case of 5 and 15, so 5 ones are 5, right? Can you please repeat which part, right? I'm basically like breaking down the code, right?
Sir, one more repeat in Hindi.
हिंदी, अच्छा
Yes, sir.
देखो अब ये मानो कि दो नंबर है ए और बी, राइट? लेट्स से 5 and 15 के एग्जांपल लेते हैं, तो ये बात तो कह सकते हो ना कि जो एचसीएफ भी आएगा वो 5 से छोटा ही होगा। 5 से ऊपर को कोई नंबर है, 5 का फैक्टर तो हो ही नहीं सकता, राइट? तो दोनों गिवन एलिमेंट्स में से जो छोटा है, आंसर उन दोनों में से किसी छोटे में ही लाई करेगा, छोटे की रेंज में लाई करेगा, राइट? छोटा भी हो सकता है, छोटे से छोटा भी हो सकता है, राइट? सो इसीलिए मैंने क्या करा, पहले दो नंबर ले लिया और उसके बाद मैंने देखा कि कौन सा नंबर दोनों में से छोटा है। एक तो तरीका था मैथ डॉट मिनिमम करने वाला, वो एक सिंगल लाइन एक फंक्शन इनबिल्ट है, वो तुम ज्यादा यूज करोगे इसके बाद, ठीक है? अभी आपको मैंने दिखा दिया। अब इसके बाद मैंने यहाँ पे पता लगाया कि मैंने पहले मान लिया कि चलो n को a के बराबर कर देते हैं ताकि मैं मान रहा हूँ कि a छोटा है, राइट? उसके बाद मैंने एक कंडीशन चेक कर दी, अगर b a से छोटा था तो n को b बना दो ना, a रखने की जरूरत ही क्या है? तो दिस इज बेसिकली फाइंडिंग द मिनिमम, राइट? उसके बाद एक फॉर लूप लगाया और उस फॉर लूप में बेसिकली तब तक जो मैक्सिमम एलिमेंट हमें मिल रहा था। अच्छा, okay, so this is the like contradictory of what we did in the last example, right? In last example, several of you guys asked ki sir, why break statement, why break statement? Because we in the previous question required only the first answer, right? You can see in this question, as soon as I hit 1, so a by a mod 1 gives me a 0, b mod 1 gives me a 0, right? It's valid answer, right? But do I need the smallest? No, I need the highest. So I need to continue operation and look for the highest answer possible, right? So this time, that's why I'm not using any sort of a break statement, right? I am allowing my code to like proceed further, even though it's fine, it finds a valid answer, right? So that I can get the highest possible answer. So that is the main difference of how you find the first and the very last element. In first element, you basically find the answer, and as soon as you find the answer, you break. But in the last occurrence, you basically find the answer, validate it, store it, and then continue, like allow your code to continue further and look for the better solutions, right? So that is the main difference of by using break and this statement, right? Okay, so I guess this for loop will help me like get a valid answer, and after that, I'm just simply doing the print. Got it? Any doubt? Please unmute yourself and let me know.
No, sir, it's clear.
सर आंसर
Yeah.
इज इक्वल टू 1 लिया, ठीक है? तो a मॉड्यूल ऑफ i एंड इज इक्वल टू 0 को कंडीशन लगाई, तो आंसर इज इक्वल टू i लिया, तो सर यहाँ पे
ये i इसलिए लिया क्योंकि i से तो हम फाइंड कर रहे हैं ना कि सबसे बड़ा आंसर क्या मिल सकता है, वही तो अभी समझा रहा था कि देखो मैंने बाय डिफॉल्ट मान लिया ना कि आंसर 1 तो होगा ही होगा, 1 तो हो ही सकता है, क्योंकि किसी भी नंबर को 1 से मल्टीप्लाई करोगे, मॉडुलो करोगे तो वो फैक्टर बनेगा ही बनेगा, राइट? तो उसके बाद मेरे को सबसे छोटा थोड़ी देखना, सबसे छोटा देखेंगे तो ऑब्वियस ही बात है आंसर इज 1 है, बट मेरे को सबसे बड़ा देखना है ना, हाईएस्ट कॉमन फैक्टर देखना। तो हाईएस्ट के लिए मेरे को एग्जीक्यूशन कंटिन्यू करानी पड़ेगी ना, तो अगर मेरे को कंटिन्यू करानी है तभी मैं आई को, जैसे आई पे मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ कि आई अगर इस नंबर को मैं फैक्टर मानूं, क्या इससे डिवाइड हो रहा है, क्या इससे डिवाइड हो रहा है, क्या इससे डिवाइड हो रहा है, वैसे करते करते जिस नंबर से सबसे ज्यादा बड़े नंबर से डिवाइड हो जाएगा उसको मैंने आंसर में स्टोर कर लिया ना, और उसको लास्ट में प्रिंट करा दिया, समझे?
ओके, तो जो 15 है वो 75 का डिविजिबल है, इसलिए 15 आंसर है।
हाँ राइट, 15 से 19, 90 और 75 दोनों डिवाइड हो रहे थे, तभी वो सबसे बड़ा नंबर था जो हमारा आंसर था, राइट।
गुड, यस।
So, can I find second highest? So, can I find second highest? See, we will be talking about the second highest question. It's a question we will be like talking about in the further assignments. I can tell you, but यार वही है कि सर के ऊपर से जाएगा, अभी उसकी कोई सेंस नहीं बना, ठीक है। पहले उतना पढ़ लो, फिर उस हिसाब से देख लो। हाँ
सर,
बोलो।
इफ हम यहाँ पे 3 इनपुट लेते हैं तो
अगर 3 इनपुट लेते हो तो क्या चक्कर है, 3 में 3 है तो क्या फर्क पड़ेगा। लेट्स से जस्ट ये कर लो कि क्या कहते हैं, इंट सी कर लो इज इक्वल टू नेक्स्ट इंट, राइट। नेक्स्ट इंट कर लो, जैसे ही हमने ये लिखा था उसके बाद एक और चेक लगा लो, इफ सी इज लेस देन बी, तो बेसिकली इफ राइट लेट्स से तो n इज इक्वल्स टू सी कर लो, राइट। और राइट, या फिर एंड क्या कहते हैं, सी इज लेस देन ए, राइट। या फिर यहाँ पे क्या कहते हैं, एंड बी इज लेस देन सी, राइट। तो ऐसे बस वही हो जाएगा कि तुमने मिनिमम फाइंड कर लिया, यहाँ पे मिनिमम चला दो और यहाँ पे क्या करो, एंड एक और लगा दो, एंड सी मॉडुलो क्या कहते हैं आई इज इक्वल टू 0। बस इतना सा ही चेंज है। एल्गोरिथम समझो ना क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे, एस सी हो जाएगा, बस वही है कि जो नंबर आ जाए तो ले क्या, राइट। ऐसे कितने भी नंबर लगा लो यार, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। अगर ज्यादा मतलब एन ही नंबर है, मतलब एन नंबर के बहुत ही बड़े बड़े नंबर है, तो पहले नंबर की एरे बना लो, एरे बनाने के बाद उसको इनपुट ले लो, इनपुट लेने के बाद नेस्टेड लूप पे, लूप के अंदर लूप लगा के सारे नंबर के साथ वैलिडेट कर लो, कहीं पे भी एक भी हिट फॉल्स होती है तो उसको बाहर निकाल दो, राइट। तो वो मतलब कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाएगा, नेस्टेड है, वो कर सकते हो बाद में, राइट।
सर ये स्मॉल चेक करने की जरूरत ही क्या थी?
स्मॉल चेक करने की जरूरत नहीं थी, स्मॉल चेक करने से बस यही हुआ कि हमने कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी बचा ली यार। फालतू के जो वो थे ना कि जैसे 5 और 15 का आंसर ले लो, अगर मेरे को पता है कि आंसर 5 या 5 से छोटा ही आना है तो 15 तक जाने की जरूरत क्या है, फालतू की ऑपरेशंस क्यों करनी। वही है ना, कंप्यूटेशन पावर आप यूज कर रहे हो,
यस सर,
राइट।
ओके सर।
What about largest number twice as now?
Yeah, largest number of twice, yeah, I'm like going to that question. So क्या कर रहे थे हम, लार्जेस्ट नंबर at twice of it, largest number at least twice of others. So, given problem description, you are given an integer array nums where the largest integer is unique. Largest integer is unique. Okay. So, determine whether the largest element in the array is at least twice as much as every other number in the array. If it is, print the index of the largest element or print -1 otherwise. Right, print -1 otherwise. Right. So basically, okay, so we are given an array, right? In that array, we have only one largest element, right? So if that largest, okay, so first thing is it's a two problem question. First, you need to find the largest element. Then basically you need to validate key. Okay, so the largest number is greater than the twice of the other number, right? So it's a two problems solution, right? That we need to handle in one. Cool. So yeah, so first let's create the arrays and take all the inputs. So scanner sc is equals to new scanner system dot in, right? So uske baad, let's take the integer n to make the size. So sc dot next int, right? So sc dot next int. After that, I basically need an array. Let's call the integer array. ARR is equals to array. new int of size n so that I can have n values stored in it. I can use a for loop to read n values. So int I is equals to 0, I is less plus, right? ARR at I is equals to sc dot next int. Right, this basically reads or creates my array. Now I need to find the maxi. Right, let's call the maxi as the maximum element. So this is one like way of like declaring it. Okay, so you can see all the numbers are greater than 0. So I can basically say that my smallest number is 0, right? Like initially my greatest number is 0, so I can basically use a for loop for int I is equals to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, right? Maxi is equals to math dot maximum of maxi and ARR at I. Okay, so last time we saw maxi math dot minimum. This time, sir, when array class will be? Yeah, it will be soon, right? Loops आपके बाद आ रही है, right? Okay, so last problem I showed you math dot minimum, right? This time I'm showing you math dot maximum. So what can you guys like understand what is this doing? This is basically checking. Okay, so initialize like assign maxi the value of like that is greatest among these two, right? The actual value of maxi and the current value that I'm standing on in the array. Whether like which one of them is like greater, please assign that to the maxi itself, right? Okay, so this is equivalent, right? This is equivalent to writing if ARR at I is greater than maxi, right? The current element of the array is greater than maxi, so please make maxi as ARR at I, right? So you can see this is 3-line statement. I have written it in 1 line, right? So I basically showed you both. So the inbuilt function to find the maximum element of an array. Yeah, you can use collections, but let's not like go that deep, right? वही यार देखो पढ़ाने को बहुत कुछ एक क्लास में पढ़ाया जा सकता है, पर इतना कूदोगे तो वहां तक जाके देखोगे तो वहां डर जाओगे भाई कि इतना सब कैसे होगा. तो वही है कि एक लेवल पे चलो तो समझ आ जाएगा. एकदम से कूदोगे तो ना समझ आएगा, बस वही है कि और डर बैठ जाएगा कोडिंग का, राइट? सो वो नहीं करना है, राइट? एक लेवल पे चलते हैं. Right, so okay, so I guess this will like help me find the maximum element, right? So yeah, once I got the maximum element, now I need to basically check whether the maximum element is valid or not, right? Whether the maximum element is valid or not. Okay, so one thing more. Okay, so do I need a maximum element? Yes, I need a maximum element, and along with that I need an index, right? Let's call that index as I, right? -1. Right, so basically that means कि as soon as I find the array I greater than maxi, please assign the IDX to the current index, right? Because you can see we need to we need the number I, like we need the index I because we need to print out the element in the index of the element that satisfies, right? So if the largest element is what was array is, so should I wait for the array video in this tries? No, yeah, you can like see, array is just a clubbing of several elements of similar data structures together, right? So you can like go along with this problem. It shouldn't be that hard, right? See, in main class of the array also, they will be like telling you this single line statement ki array is a collection of similar data types, right? After that, it's all about solving the problem that we are doing currently, right? So you will be ideally like having a look at these problems. Okay,
sir,
so,
is array I and I is same, sir? I mean array I equal to I?
Array I?
And I is same, sir?
Array I and I is equals to same? समझ नहीं आया यार.
Yeah, I'm asking same. I mean, like, is the value of array I and I is same?
Array I and value of I is same. No, it's not same, right? Array I is the element stored at the ith position, right? I is the index. Array I is the value at that index, right?
Okay, sir. Sir, why we take index is equal to -1?
Okay, yeah, because initially I'm like keeping the index that is out of the range of the array, right? So that I know if our index is -1, I know it's an invalid index, because see, in an array, the indexes are from 0 to n minus 1, right? N being the size of the array. I can never have the index -1, right? So that's why I'm initializing the value with an invalid return result, so that after the execution, if there is still n-1 in the index, I know there was no valid answer in the given execution, right? Got it? Right?
Not exactly, sir.
Okay, don't worry. Yeah, let's keep it 0.
सर वन मोर एक्सप्लेन, दोबारा बता दीजिए एक बार.
देखो, मैं अपनी array का इंडेक्स शुरू में ही गलत इनिशियलाइज कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे को पता है कि ये इंडेक्स होता ही राइट. मैंने एक ऑपरेशन परफॉर्म करा, उसके बाद भी अगर मेरा इंडेक्स गलत ही है तो मैं बता सकता हूँ ना कि मेरे array में कोई ऐसा आंसर ही नहीं था जो उसको सही कर देता है, राइट. तो गलत शुरू करने से ये फायदा हो जाता है कि गलत से सही होगा तो मेरे को पता चल जाएगा चेंज आया है. गलत का गलत है तो मैं बता सकता हूँ कि अंदर कोई आंसर ही नहीं था, राइट. बस ये आंसर है, क्योंकि मेरे को पता है कि वैलिड जो रेंज है वो 0 से n-1 तक ही है. अगर मैं -1 रखता हूँ और कुछ ऑपरेशन होता है और मेरे को कोई मैक्सिमम एलिमेंट ही नहीं मिलता, मान लो सारी एरे में 0 0 0 ही, तो मैक्सिमम एलिमेंट तो कोई हुआ ही नहीं ना, राइट. तो अगर ऐसा कोई केस आ जाता है तो उससे मेरे को पता चल जाएगी कि अगर आंसर ही मैंने गलत इनिशियलाइज करा तो उससे पता चल जाएगा कि गलत इनिशियलाइज था, अंदर कोई वैल्यू ही नहीं है, तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग क्या चेंज करने चाहिए वो हम हैंडल कर सकते हैं, राइट. इस कोड में तो इतनी दिक्कत नहीं है, पर हाँ ये ऐसी चीजें हैं जो मतलब आप कोड करते हुए देखोगे ना तब सीखोगे कि ऐसे ऐसे लिख सकते हैं, क्योंकि आगे जाके जब कॉर्नर केसेस एरर हैंडलिंग करनी होती है तब ये चीजें काम आती है, राइट. कैसे मतलब दिमाग लगा के तुम कैसे हैंडल कर रहे हो, बस वही है.
सर इंडेक्स इक्वल टू 0 क्यों यूज किया? इंडेक्स को तो ARR I एक्सेस कर रहा है.
ARR at I एक्सेस कर रहा है, पर इंडेक्स इसलिए हमने यूज करा क्योंकि I का स्कोप देखो आप, I फॉर लूप में चलेगा वहीं जाके खत्म हो जाएगा, राइट. पर जब मेरे को चेक करना है कि मेरा लार्जेस्ट एलिमेंट जिस इंडेक्स पे था क्या वो सही लार्जेस्ट एलिमेंट है और मेरी गिवन कंडीशन को सेटिस्फाई करा, उसके बाद जब मेरे को इंडेक्स प्रिंट करा ना तो मेरे को देखना है ना कि भाई वो वैल्यू किस इंडेक्स पे पड़ी थी. तो ये बस वो इंडेक्स स्टोर कराने के लिए कि जब मेरा वैलिडेट हो जाए कि हाँ है या नहीं है, तब अगर जब मेरे को इंडेक्स देखना हो तो मेरे को फिर से ना ढूंढना पड़े, सीधा मैं बता सकूं कि अच्छा इस इंडेक्स पे पड़ी थी ये लो इंडेक्स IDX. ठीक है.
Yes sir. Okay.
Right. So yeah, after that what is left? Yeah, we got the index, we got the maximum element. Now we need to basically check if index I is equals to ऐसे में मत देखो यार, तुम इसको कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे. ये देखो, ऐसे देख लो कि if array at I is greater than ARR at IDX, right, please make IDX as I. अब देखो मैंने वो लार्जेस्ट एलिमेंट ही गेम से हटा दिया, मैंने सिर्फ इंडेक्स पे बात करनी शुरू की कि इंडेक्स पे किस इंडेक्स पे कौन सी वैल्यू पड़ी, हम उससे देखेंगे कि राइट. सी लेट्स फाइंड आउट कि व्हिच इज द इंडेक्स ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट एलिमेंट, राइट. आई एम नाउ बेसिकली चेकिंग कि ओके सो इंडेक्स आई बेसिकली assume कि फर्स्ट एलिमेंट इज माय ग्रेटेस्ट एलिमेंट. आफ्टर दैट आई एम लाइक validating every element with that largest index. कि this time if array at I is greater than array at IDX, please make IDX as I, because now this index I is having a value that is greater than the previous index IDX. So my IDX should now point to new index that is I, right. What I'm saying is कि let's say यार 3 4 5, right. So let's say कि initially, okay, so let's also write the indexes that is 0 1 and 2, right. So these are index, right, these are element, right. Okay, so let's do a dry run, right. Okay, so initially I said ki IDX, that is the answer of the, that is the index of the maximum element, is going to be 0, right. Let me just put a comment also ki index of the maximum element, cool, index of the maximum element. Now see, IDX is initially 0, so I am basically assuming that this 3 value is my greatest element, right, by the index 0. Now after that I can say that I is also starting from 0. I basically checks, okay, so index at IDX and I. So let's have I and IDX. So I and IDX are both pointing to 3. So yeah, nothing will happen because they are same, so no execution. After this I will move. Now I is pointing at 4. Is I greater than, okay, so is ARR at I greater than ARR at IDX? Yes or no? Please in the chat. Is ARR at I greater than ARR of IDX? Yes, it is. So I can say कि this if will be validated. Now IDX will be assigned to I. So I can basically move कि अब मेरे को एक ऐसी value मिल गई है जो मेरे current IDX से बड़ी थी. That is 4. So IDX को उस जगह point करो ना जहाँ बड़ी value पड़ी है. Right? So yeah, I was 1. Now IDX has also moved to 1. Cool. Now after this operation, I basically moves again. Now I is at 2. Right? I is at 2. Now what is going to happen? Now is this if case validated? Yes, again it's validated. So I again at line number 21, IDX is moved to the value of I. Right? So I can say ki IDX is 2. Okay. So now when the for loop ends after the scope, I का scope खत्म हो गया, right? I's like I scope is over, so I will be destroyed. So I can say because see this is destroyed, this is destroyed. Now I lost the data, right? So just to have the data of like the index of the largest element in hand, we are like storing it above, right? IDX is basically telling me, okay, so in the given array, the largest element was present at the index 2, that is 5. Got it? इतना समझ आ गया? यहाँ तक कोई doubt? Largest element कैसे निकाला? Got it. Got it. All right. So
Yes,
yeah.
sir, got it.
Now after that, we basically need to check key. Okay, so we found the largest element. Now we need to validate key, is this largest element at least twice as much of every other number? How can we do that? Basically, we need a for loop for int I is equals to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, right? Basically, we need to skip if the I is equals to IDX, right? अपने आप से थोड़ी check करोगे, वो तो अलग है ना, वो तो obviously बात है, अपने दुगने से थोड़ी बड़ा होगा. So continue. Right, to continue. 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 Right, continue. उसके बाद if, right, if twice of current index, right, ARR at I is current twice of current index is smaller than, right? Okay, so right, क्या है? Largest element in the array is at least twice as much of the every other number in the array. Right. Okay, so we need to validate key it's greater than every number, right? So either we can like validate key it's greater than every number, or we can find the first occurrence at which it's not valid, right? At which it's not valid. So if we like find a case key I right array at I twice of that is smaller, right, is greater than the ARR at IDX, right? मेरे को एक ऐसा एलिमेंट मिल जाता है जिसका ट्वाइस करूं तो एरे के लार्जेस्ट एलिमेंट से भी ज्यादा आ जाता है, तो मतलब ये इनवैलिड केस हो गया, इसमें कंडीशन ही प्रूव कर दी. तो आई कैन बेसिकली डू के सिस्टम डॉट आउट, right? I can like I can simply do कि maximum is equals to -1, right? You can see if there is no answer to be printed, print -1. So I can basically make IDX is equals to -1 and break, right? I can break and at last I can do a print. Right. Okay. Now this might be confusing कि सर ने कर क्या दिया. देखो, this is law of like valid proof करने के लिए हमें हर बार सही आंसर ढूंढने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर हम इनवैलिड भी प्रूफ कर दें ना, तब भी वो एक आंसर है, राइट? अगर इनवैलिड प्रूफ हो गया तो ऑब्वियसली बात है वो इनवैलिड है. हमें वैलिडिटी चेक करनी है. वैलिडिटी चेक करने के लिए या तो हमारे किसी के साथ चेक कर ले, या तो हम ऐसा कुछ ढूंढ लें जिसने इसको नेग्लेक्ट लाइक वो कर दिया, इनवैलिडेट कर दिया, तो वो हमें पता चल गया ना कि सबसे चेक करने की जरूरत नहीं. जैसे ही हमें इनवैलिड मिला तो वो आंसर ही गलत हो गया, राइट? सो दिस इज बेसिकली रादर देन फाइंडिंग ऑल दी like checking with every element and checking if it's greater, I'm like specifically looking at any element that makes this condition false, right? So if that happens, I'm like I know what to do कि index को -1 बना दो and break कर दो, so that I don't look any further because I got one answer. It's not a valid answer, but it's an invalid answer. So invalid answer makes the statement invalid, right? So this is the second approach that I follow, right? Okay, any doubts in this program, or you guys are able to find any sort of error that might interrupt the execution? Please let me know any line number, right?
Sir, why we use continue?
All right, see, continue, because okay, so let's say the greatest element in the given array is 5, right? Now if I check it with the given, let's say the formula ki largest element should be greater than the twice of every other element in the array. So do you think 5 times 2 times 5 is greater than or is less than 5? No, it's not, because it's the same element whose validity I'm checking with, and I'm like making twice of it. So by default, it's going to make the answer 0, right? Right. 10 is always greater than 5. Yeah, I know that. But do I need to check it? No, because I'm checking for the largest number, that is 5. Right. So if the IDX, that is the index of the largest element, is equal to the index that I'm currently standing on. So basically that means both the elements are same. So there is no point of checking with the twice and any other condition. So I can basically use a continuous statement. What continuous statement does is it basically skips all the further lines written for that specific iteration, right? So this if wala part and if wala part, that is if 2 into ARR at I is greater than ARR at IDX, is skipped. Got it?
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, let's try and submit it. Yeah, all discusses. So yeah, guys, you can have a look at this thing. Okay, so yeah, I guess today's class is done. Now there are a couple of things that I need to discuss with you guys. Key, first of all, how is the class going on, right? Doubt session. Do you have any like suggestions, any improvements that you require, right? Anything, I'm up for the feedback. More practice problems for the assignments. Like I highly appreciate if you guys can unmute yourself, right? So that we can have a conversation. Yeah, T Lang. Yeah, guy, I'm not comfortable with your name, like your email. So yeah, please, if you can unmute yourself, we can have a conversation. Perfect, sir. Right. Okay. So yeah, class starts at 10, like ends at 11. I guess 11, 10, 11, 15. I can't, sir. I'm really sorry about it. Okay, no worries. I got a point. You want more questions for the practice? I will be conveying that. Okay, so one thing, do you guys have access to the recordings of the doubt sessions? Any error, any like disturbance on that point?
Yes, sir. In we for the accessing of doubt recorded lecture, we won't able to play the recorded if we paused. मतलब सर इधर कि अगर मैं हम लोग वो वीडियो देखते देखते अगर कहीं पे पॉज कर देते हैं तो फिर उसको फिर से उसको प्ले नहीं कर पाते हैं, उसको फिर से रिफ्रेश करके फिर वहाँ पर जाकर फिर से वो देखना पड़ता है।
शुरू से देखना पड़ता है पूरा का पूरा?
ना सर, वहाँ पर फिर उसको माउस के थ्रू वहाँ पर
अच्छा अच्छा, मतलब पॉज कर देते हो तो प्ले नहीं हो रहा? ठीक है,
हाँ प्ले नहीं हो पाता सर, ये एक इशू है।
ठीक है, चलो मैं बताता हूँ। और कोई इशू?
नो सर, और तो ऐसे कुछ नहीं है, सब कुछ ठीक ठाक चल रहा है।
नहीं मतलब पढ़ाने में कोई दिक्कत, बात करने में दिक्कत, लैंग्वेज का कोई इशू, कुछ भी यार, कुछ भी हो तो बताओ, राइट? क्योंकि देखो तुम्हारे लिए, तुम चुप रहोगे तो तुम्हारे को वही चीजें बताता हूँ, तुम जितना जल्दी बताओगे उतनी जल्दी ठीक हो जाएगी।
यस सर, मुझे लैंग्वेज का इशू है थोड़ा।
पर एक बार हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिएगा बाद में, मतलब एक बार इंग्लिश पर एक बार हिंदी, तो बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाएगी सर।
देखो नॉर्थ साउथ दोनों के बच्चे हैं हमारे पास, तो नॉर्थ को हिंदी में दिक्कत होती है, लाइक साउथ को हिंदी में दिक्कत होती है, नॉर्थ को इंग्लिश में दिक्कत होती है। तो मैं बेसिकली दोनों में ट्राई करता हूँ। आप मेरे को बोलते हो कि सर लैंग्वेज है, तो मैंने आपको दोनों में बताया, ऐसी कोई दिक्कत नहीं।
सर जैसे आप क्वेश्चन बताते हैं ना, तो उसका स्मॉल रिव्यू हिंदी में दे दीजिए, छोटा सा, बस ज्यादा नहीं। वैसे तो इंग्लिश में समझ में आ जाता है, बट छोटा सा एक रिव्यू हिंदी में मिल जाता है तो पूरा क्लियरली समझ में आ जाता है।
ठीक है, और मतलब कोई स्पीड में दिक्कत की, बहुत तेज है, बहुत धीरे है, कैसे है?
नो सर, बाकी सब डन है,
परफेक्ट है सर बाकी।
तो यार बस यही था यार, छोटा सा एक फीडबैक। कोई भी दिक्कत आती है ना मेरे को एंड में बता दिया करो, राइट? मेरे को ऐसे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, मैं खुद चाहता हूँ तुम्हें सही समझ आना चाहिए, राइट?
Sir, yeah, doubt sections are very clear and you have explained very well, sir. But Yeah, someone has said we have more problems to practice it, because when we done with loops only few problems, after that we went to array, but in live sections we didn't finish those like arrays, we didn't finish those topics, but we entered into the array. So we want more problems on the topic, otherwise it's perfect, sir.
Okay, so you want more problems on the assignment, right? See,
Yeah, exactly.
I can do that. Like I can basically communicate it to the internal team, right? But it would be better if you like say that directly to your batch manager, right? मैं बोलूंगा उससे बढ़िया तुम लोग बोलोगे ना, तुम्हारी ज्यादा सुनेंगे, तुम्हारी डिमांड ज्यादा पूरी करेंगे, right? तो तुम लोग एक बार बैच मैनेजर को बोलो, वो अरेंज करवाएगा असाइनमेंट, उसका काम है भाई कराना, ठीक है? तो मैं भी एक बार बात करता हूँ। बोलो।
Or do you have any suggestion? I mean, do you have any a websites to practice these things?
See, yeah, I can like tell you n number of websites. See, but you are beginners now, right? You are trying to basically learn to code, right? You are not trying to learn data structures at this moment. Module 1 is like basically making you familiar with the coding part, right? Okay, so one has said lead code, right? अगर मैं तुम्हें lead code बता भी दूं ना, तुमसे एक क्वेश्चन नहीं लेगा वहां पे, तुम डिप्रेस होके फिर आ जाओगे सर हो नहीं रहा। क्योंकि तुमने अभी तक देखो एरे नहीं देखी, वहां पे पहला क्वेश्चन ही शुरू होता है कि एरे में ये निकाल के दो, वो निकाल के दो, राइट? सो एट दिस पॉइंट, right, current scenario that we are at, I won't suggest you like go to n number of websites, because the more you jump in the websites, the more confused you will be, right? Sticking to one, like basically getting along with the all the codes, like at least finish module 1 with the Accio part, right? At least with me, right? So that I know कि यार मैंने तुम्हें क्या क्या पढ़ाया, right? क्योंकि तुमने देखा मैं तुम्हें क्वेश्चन नहीं कराता, मैं क्वेश्चन के अलावा भी 4-5 कहानियां सुना देता, right? Because that is what is experience, right? You will be facing this sort of like example, this thing, that, right? Initially, if you like go to Lead Code or Geek for Geeks, you will be getting stuck, right? वहां पे तुम इजी करोगे, जोश में हार्ड कर लिया तो रो दोगे यार, राइट? तो उससे बचने के लिए अभी के लिए एक पे स्टिक करो, राइट? मॉड्यूल 1 खत्म करो, उसके बाद आप वहां पे ले लो। सर आपकी डाउट सेशन, या
सर ऐसे नहीं कर सकते क्या, जैसे अभी हमारा इसमें 8 to 10 ये चल रहा है अभी फिलहाल, फॉर लूप, व्हाइल लूप और डू व्हाइल लूप हुआ, तो उसी पे प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चंस नहीं कर सकते क्या एक्स्ट्रा, बल्कि एरेज में जाने के अलावा?
प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चन करो, आपको किसने मना करा? कोई रोक रहा है आपको प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चन? जिम सेक्शन पढ़ा, उखाड़ो उसको, जिम सेक्शन को पूरा। बस वही है कि यार देखो अभी ना मॉड्यूल 1 ना बहुत ट्रिकी होता है यार बच्चों के लिए। बच्चों को पता क्या होता है कि डीमोटिवेशन बहुत होती है, ऐसी चीजें होंगी ना जो आपने सुना ही नहीं। अरे मॉड्यूल 2 में जाओगे ना, अरे को बच्चों को बोलोगे ये बच्चों का काम था, राइट? बस वही है कि आपको ना एक सेट पैटर्न पे उठाना पड़ेगा। अगर मैं आपको सीधा उठा दूं ना तो फिर आपके लिए दिक्कत हो जाएगी, क्लास में अटेंडेंस कम हो जाएगी, पता है? तो सीधी सी बात वो आती है कि मतलब वही तुम्हारा लॉस होना शुरू हो जाए। तो इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ वही कि अब जैसे एक फंक्शन था मिन मैक्स वाला, ये बहुत ज्यादा यूज होगा, तो मैंने तभी दिखाया साथ में एक्सप्लेन भी करा, उसका ऑल्टरनेट भी बताया क्यों हो रहा है भाई, एरे भी बताया। एरे भी ऐसी तरीके से तुम बढ़ोगे तो होता रहेगा। तुम्हें क्वेश्चंस करने हैं तो तुम क्वेश्चंस करो, क्वेश्चन पे कोई मना नहीं कर रहा, राइट? बट क्वेश्चंस एकदम से बहुत हार्ड मत उठा लेना। हार्ड कैसे? देखो पता कैसे चलता है, क्योंकि तुम क्वेश्चन उठाओगे 15 मिनट तुमने देखा, राइट? गिव इट 15 to 20 minutes, like try and think about it, try to build your algorithm, right? And all, even if you're not getting any sort of algorithm to solve it in 15 minutes, try to go for hints, like try googling like concepts of this, try googling of that, give it an hour of solve, right? hour to solve. If 1 घंटे में भी नहीं हो रहा तो भाई हार मान लो, कि मतलब मान लो कि भाई ये बाहर की चीज है, ये बाद में करेंगे। थोड़ा सा सीख लो, उसके बाद फिर तुम जब उसमें जाओगे ना तो बच्चों का काम लगेगा, राइट? तो ऐसे घबराने की बात नहीं, आप क्वेश्चंस करो, एक पेस पे करना बस, राइट? Yeah, anybody else has anything to discuss? Okay, Java T point. Yeah, Java T point is good. Yeah, you can like go see, that's again the same thing, right? See, many websites these websites are basically built to like enhance your data structure skills, but at this point you're like not learning data structures. Data structure शुरू होता है मॉड्यूल 2 से, अभी आपको कोड करना सिखा रहे हैं, राइट? ABCD तो लिखना सीख जाओ, बाद में पैराग्राफ लिखना ना। वहां पे तो सीधा ही बोलेंगे इंग्लिश का पेपर दे दो, तो वहां तो फेल हो जाओगे। तो वो थोड़ा सा है, दिक्कत है, इसलिए मैं बोलूंगा अभी यहीं पे रुको, मॉड्यूल 1 खत्म हो जाए तो लीड कोड करना, कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं।
सर मॉड्यूल 1 में तो जैसे मॉक टेस्ट होगा, उसमें कितने नंबर मैंडेटरी हैं?
उसमें मैंडेटरी नहीं है यार, उसमें टेस्ट केसेस होते हैं। पता है कोई भी इंटरव्यू देते हो ना तुम, तो उसमें क्या होता है, क्वेश्चन आते हैं, उस क्वेश्चन में जितना टेस्ट केस पास कर लेते हो ना, उसके हिसाब से तुम्हारे वहां पे आगे सिलेक्शन होता है। देखो 3 क्वेश्चन आते हैं, 3 हर क्वेश्चन में मान लो 10 टेस्ट केस है, 10 की टेस्ट केस मतलब हर क्वेश्चन 10 नंबर का मान लो, 10 में से जितने टेस्ट केस चले उतने नंबर तुम्हारे उस नंबर पे कट ऑफ पड़ जाएगी कि इतने एटलीस्ट इतना थ्रेशोल्ड है, इससे ऊपर करोगे तो पास, इससे तुम कम करोगे तो फेल। वो क्या है, वो मतलब इंटरनल टीम डिसाइड।
हाँ सर, जैसे कि इसमें दे रखा है स्कोर 30।
हाँ
इसमें
ये
स्कोर
ये
गेन करना होता
अरे
है।
ये भूल जाओ, ये समझोगा, ये तो कुछ नहीं है। उस समय तो तुम्हें दूसरी वेबसाइट मिलेगी लीड कोड जैसी प्रॉपर, ठीक है, उस समय तुम्हें टेस्ट केस चलाने होंगे वहां पे, राइट। तो उसमें उसका भी मैं मतलब बता दूंगा कैसे उसमें फंक्शनल प्रोग्रामिंग चलती है। याद है एक बार फंक्शनल दिखाया था पर तुम्हें भी फंक्शंस पता नहीं था, तो वो भी
Yes,
हम
sir.
थोड़ा थोड़ा टाइम के साथ फंक्शनल प्रोग्रामिंग में घुसेंगे, राइट, ताकि तुम्हें उस समय दिक्कत ना आए मेन बारी में, ठीक है।
सर इसमें तो फंक्शन लीड कोड में तो फंक्शन ऑलरेडी मिला है ना,
हाँ फंक्शन ऑलरेडी मिलेंगे।
बस हमें कॉन्सेप्ट लिखना होगा।
हाँ तुम एक बार अगर लीड कोड कभी खोल के देखोगे तो लीड कोड देखना और
Yes,
इसका
sir.
पैटर्न देखना, यहाँ पे तुम्हें ना एकदम नाइफ तरीके से बिल्कुल लाइक ग्रेजुअल लेवल से कोड कराते हैं एक्टिव जॉब। लीड कोड में क्या होता है, वो भाई फिक्स पैटर्न है कि तुम्हें नौकरी चाहिए, वहां पे जाओ बस अंधा कोड कर दो और हो जाएगा। नहीं, कोड एक्चुअली काम कैसे कर रहा है, कैसे डेटा स्ट्रक्चर बना रहे हो, वो तुम यहाँ से एक्टिव से सीख। राइट, मैंने कह रहा लीड कोड बुरी है भाई, मैंने भी लीड कोड से ही करा, मैंने उसके अलावा कहीं नहीं गया, पर मैंने लीड कोड देखी इसलिए मैं बता पा रहा हूँ वहां पे क्या नुकसान है, यहाँ पे क्या बढ़िया है, यहाँ पे क्या नुकसान है, वहां क्या बढ़िया है, राइट। मॉड्यूल 1 खत्म कर लो, मॉड्यूल 1 के बाद जहां मर्जी जाओ, तुम्हारे पे फ्रीडम है। मॉड्यूल 1 पे यार रुक जाना, क्योंकि मॉड्यूल 1 पे अगर ज्यादा कूदोगे तो डिप्रेशन बहुत जल्दी आएगा कोडिंग।
नहीं सर, अभी तो फिलहाल मॉड्यूल 1 पे ही फोकस करें क्योंकि मेरे एग्जाम भी है सर इस वजह से।
Right. So yeah, I guess many of you will be working, right? How many of you are working? Right. Okay.
No one else.
Yeah, I guess like वही working के साथ में time निकालना। So yeah, you guys can like stick with the Accio part as of now, right? Like मेरे से पूछ लो यार, कोई दिक्कत नहीं। Yeah, both I can't handle. Yeah, it will be fine, right? Because I'm trying to like go as like smoothly as possible, right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for the class, right? I hope पढ़ाया समझ आया होगा। Sir, Discord
Yeah,
ID,
sir.
okay, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
थैंक यू सर। सर कैन आई लीव नाउ?
Yeah, I'm just sharing my Discord ID. If you guys want, you can stay, or else you can.
Yes, sir.
Just give me a second. Discord ID is. Yeah, guys, I have shared my Discord ID. It's just me 3485.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, guys. So yeah, please copy the Discord ID. Then I will be ending the class. Okay. Give you a minute.